As I was at the university, the ultimate goal, the pinnacle, I would say, of most students was to work for companies like Morgan Stanley, JP Morgan, right, KPMG, all of those huge corporations. But the pinnacle was to work for Goldman Sachs. Now, what do you do when you are an insecure kid from Poland? You know, you don't speak English very well, you have this very Eastern European accent, you speak like this, you feel very strange when, you know, I used to talk like this, you don't understand, you know. I used to feel very bad, very bad. So what happens when you talk like this and people making fun of you and you have those insecurities? Well, of course, you want to overcompensate, right? You don't know what you want to do, so you go to Goldman Sachs because everyone is basically showing you that this is the right path. So I started working for Goldman Sachs at some point, and by the way, overall, great experience, learned a lot, but very soon I realized that it wasn't something I wanted to do. I just knew. I felt trapped, like literally every single day at some point I had to go to the toilet and just sit like this, holding my head, just meditating or visualizing that I'm somewhere else. And I realized I just can't do it. You know, I could do it for a year or two, but not for 5 or 10. So one day I got so pissed and frustrated. And by the way, anybody can relate? Anybody had a job where you felt like this? Holy shit, wow. Can you, this is interesting. Can you raise your hands a bit higher and just look around the room? I didn't expect, this is insane. This is insane, wow. Wow, okay, I'm shocked. Okay, so you know the feeling, right? You know the feeling. So I got so frustrated that at some point I just sat down and I started visualizing my perfect future day, right? I got so irritated that, you know, I don't remember what I was drinking, but I'm sure I was drinking some alcohol, like downing some alcohol actually. And I was writing an email to my good friend Gianluca, explaining to him how I'm gonna live my perfect day in the future. And that time it was just a dream. I didn't really believe it was possible. But I was just fantasizing. You know what, man? One day I'm gonna live like this. I'm gonna wake up by the beach and I'm gonna open my laptop and see how many sales I've made. And I'm gonna have an impact and I'm gonna travel the world and have this amazing community, blah, 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 blah. All of those things that eventually became reality, right? Just a few years later, that vision became my reality. Now the question is, did it happen because of the law of attraction, right? I closed my eyes and it appeared? Of course not. A lot of hard work, right, dedication, but something interesting happened. As I defined that vision, I started asking myself certain questions. For example, okay, if I want to get to that vision, what should I be doing on a daily basis in order to get there? And that's when I started getting more and more clarity. And I started realizing what are some of those most important tasks that I should be performing, right? So that was the first step that made me realize that I was going that direction, and I realized, oh, but I want to go there. I have to do totally different things in order to get there. Now the second step was that, and that happened after some time, I realized that I don't have all the time in the world. I can't perform all of those tasks and be good at all of them. It's just simply impossible. And very often, and I'm sure you can relate, right? We have this to-do list and we think, oh, these 5 things are really important. I have to do all of them. No, if you do all of them, you will be maybe good, maybe even very good at all of them, but you won't be excellent at any of them. So I discovered something called the 80-20 principle. Anybody knows 80-20 principle? Okay, most of the people, let me explain very briefly for people who don't know. So 80-20 basically says that 80% of your results come from 20% of your inputs, your actions, your efforts. So essentially what it means is that very few things really matter, right? And this is interesting because in today's society, it seems like we often feel that things have equal importance. But 80-20 applies to many different areas of life. When you look at wealth distribution, or when you look at sales teams and you realize that a very small number of salespeople make most of the sales. Or even basic stuff like you open your wardrobe and you realize that you wear 20% of your clothing 80% of the time, right? So you get the point. And I figured that why don't I use this principle in order to figure out what I need to do to take my business and my life to the next level. So that's what I did. And I analyzed everything I was doing, again, based on my vision, and I asked myself, okay, what is the 80 and what is the 20 of that equation? Which tasks are really crucial, really important? And I circled them, right? And I started performing them. And then I realized, what if I take this 20% and I do 80-20 once again? to figure out that 1 or 2 critical tasks, the fundamental building blocks of my life and my business, and focus on that. And it wasn't easy. But I realized that once you do it, you have so much clarity, and that's when you can focus on things that truly matter, right? Anybody would like to try it for yourselves after this speech? Yeah? Awesome, awesome.